Oh man, this is gonna be a lot of fun. I know we've connected in various ways over the last like year, probably, online and on LinkedIn and stuff. But yeah, good to have you in the podcast. Your journey is really unique, man. And I just love, because I've thought about so much in recent years about the connecting people and how I love doing that. I love being in rooms with people. I loved getting away from the screen and being IRL. And like that's your MO, like that's your mission, to kind of have people show up and get outside their comfort zone, try new things, right? So anyways, that's one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on to talk about that and get people engaged, hopefully to take those uncomfortable risks that seem like risks, but we know they're not.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for having me on. I think what you and your listeners are primed for in this chapter in human history is to unlock the greatest creativity and hope and brilliant and beautiful dreams of tomorrow that can only be accomplished if we do things together. And I think that the hunger and the yearning that your people have to achieve that, to feel that, to be more alive. If I get a platform to play a small role in poking at that bear, it'll be a great day.
I love that. Well, and maybe a good place to start because, I think for people to understand your journey a little bit and some of the things you're doing today, it really started, I wrote this date down, July 15th, 2015, as this kind of moment in time. So I have two things. One is I want you to tell that story of that night, what happened and kind of how that changed things. What I'm really curious about that I don't know the answer to is how did you get 15 strangers to show up to your place that night? What's the story there to get them coming? That's my first question.
Well, actually, let me tell you the story and then remind me to answer that question that I don't often get asked. Because it's a very important part of the thing that not enough people ask about. So, hey folks, if you looked at my life over 10 years ago, it did not look too dissimilar from yours watching this right now. I was living in the comfort zone. I had a great job. I had a roof over my head. Nice people said nice things about me. You're in your industry, doing your thing. Life probably looks decently good. Fast forward to the middle of 2015. I'm over in Italy producing a Broadway play about Fiorello LaGuardia, accomplishing a childhood dream. And I was given a driver for the couple weeks that I was over in Italy, a private driver. And I was sitting in his car, talking in Italian, asking about his daughter, who worked for the head promoter that brought us over to Rome. And I said, does your daughter like working for the head promoter? He said she likes it all fine and well, except she realizes she's living another man's dream. And the minute he said that to me, the minute I realized, oh shit. And so I found myself after Rome, back home in New York City, sitting at the foot of my Murphy bed in my 300 square foot studio apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, wondering what comes next, realizing I've just spent the last 5 years living another man's dream. Would the skills I've acquired today be relevant tomorrow? What would I even do? Am I even hireable? Oh no. See, what I realized is the success I found in Italy did not actually bring me fulfillment, but it left me lonely, unfulfilled, disconnected, insecure. Massive anxiety. And folks, I don't know about you, but I have a very long history of that stuff going wrong. I have a long history of non-suicidal self-injury, multiple stints in rehab, jail, diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 5, lifelong depression, those kind of things. And I knew in that moment at the edge of my Murphy bed after Rome, if I didn't change my life situation quick, pronto, as the Italians say, I was liable to go down a deep, dark path. And so I thought to myself, what brings me joy? There were fleeting moments of joy in Rome, right? Not how the Italians walk down the street with their hands tied behind their backs, not how they honor art and architecture and history, but no, I found joy in watching how the Italians ate their food with their friends amongst community. I don't know how many people here watching this have ever been to Italy, but they eat their food different. And in that little moment of darkness, I said, I need some of that. I need what the Italians call la dolce vita. And so I stood up from my Murphy bed and I walked 5 feet to my 2-burner stove in my studio apartment. And I did something laughingly simple. I invented a pasta sauce recipe. Now, folks, if you're just listening to this via audio, I want you to imagine a simple little red sauce that's a little bit spicy. Some might call it a arrabbiata. I call it spicy gratitude. Anyways, it was pretty good. And so I figured I should feed my pasta sauce to people to see if it's even good or not. And I decided to host a dinner. July 15th, 2015, I invited 15 of my friends that didn't know each other over to my home for a simple bowl of pasta sauce. 6:30 p.m. sharp, all caps, all bold, underlined, arrivals. Bring your own bottle of wine. We then worked together to create the meal. I delegated 11 specific tasks. We served each other. You couldn't sit next to someone that you know. I made a rule saying you can't pour your own glass of wine. And then at 7:47 p.m., that very first evening, I paused all dinner table conversation and I asked a very simple question. If you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, that you've never thought to thank, who would that be? And folks, we created a space for all of us to go around the room popcorn style and each take a few moments to share our story.
Love that. Yeah.
And here to close out this chapter of the story, as you can imagine, as I know you feel watching this podcast, people took a breath. They sat back in their chair, and the stories they chose to tell with courage, bravery, taking a fearless and searching moral inventory were some of the most amazing stories that I'd ever seen before in my life. A few people cried. They loved the sauce. And I fell in love with the feeling of gathering people. Now, Brian, I figured out what I would do for the rest of my life that very first evening. And we've been hosting dinner parties ever since.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have to ask though, like, what made you get up and make pasta sauce?
I had been working in theater for the previous 5 years, running a production company alongside a great man named Tony Lobianco. And he was known for his pasta sauce. He had a spicy puttanesca. It's a Sicilian sauce with capers and olives and all that kind of stuff. And it was a really good sauce. And so I knew that pasta sauce brought him joy. And so I knew in that dark moment, maybe I just do what Tony did and make my own pasta sauce. And that was it.
Yeah.
He was known for his dinners. You know, I watched him for 5 years bring in billionaires, politicians, heads of state, actors, you name it, into his Upper West Side apartment. And take a room full of stuck up, rich people that had nothing in common on paper, and he would make them all cry. And I kept saying, damn, that's good. Damn, that's good. And so at a little low point after Rome, I said, why don't I try it myself? That was it.
I love it.
That was it.
So with the 747, the question you asked, was that just like a spur of the moment thing, or had you thought about that for a while? Like, hey, if I get the chance to do this.
So gratitude was on our mind for the previous year and a half. So for 5 years, we involved ourselves, me and Papa Tony, we involved ourselves in a tremendous amount of different theatrical productions, Broadway, off-Broadway, touring. That was our shtick. But me and Tony, our souls were connected through this one-man play about Fiorello LaGuardia, former mayor of New York City, 3-term mayor, 7-term congressman, spoke 8 languages, had 7 secretaries. He was a man of and for the people. And Tony's brother, John, handed us a poem one day, and we used to read that poem after every single rendition of the LaGuardia play during the Q&A portion. And it was a simple poem about giving gratitude to soldiers. And it was called A Soldier Died Today, written by A. Lawrence Vanecourt. And so this gratitude, this poem, this thing was constantly in my mind for a year and a half as I watched, thousands of people in the crowd cry every night. And eventually, some folks in Virginia said, we should make a video of Tony reading this poem and just put it online. And so we made a video giving gratitude to our veterans to try to lower the suicide and depression rate amongst veterans with active PTSD. And we decided to launch it on Memorial Day 2015, May 28th or whatever, 2015. And we picked 16 different friends who had massive Facebook followings to upload the video as their own video. Don't tag us. Upload it as if they created the video. That video has gone on to receive over 30 million views, 2 million shares, and we won 2 Emmy Awards with it. And so I had just watched the contagious spark of gratitude to our veterans. And we had just impacted millions of people's lives. And so when it came down to pasta sauce and a little dinner table, I said, why don't I bring a little gratitude into this mix? But don't make it easy, like, what are you grateful for? Yeah. Make it hard, like, who have you never thought to thank? And when we asked that question, Brian, it was an unlock because I watched the human soul across the table from me kind of get a little pause, and I could see the guilt, the shame, the regret bubbling up. How have I never thought to thank this person I'm thinking of? And then as we went around the dinner table and, this person shared, and then that person shared, and then that person shared. By the time it got to the 14th and 15th person, they changed their answer 10 times. And so by the time they actually shared, that was something that had been hidden away in their heart and soul for years. And you just saw a human, just go through the meaning of life. Yeah. And so, I made the question up on the spot.
What was the tone? Okay, like, could you tell a considerable difference in the tone of the conversation afterwards, the banter, the interaction?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, you had like arrivals, everybody's just politely talking about, hey, what do you do? They're talking about the what and the how, after the question, they're talking about the why, It's like that kind of stuff. So, you have like friendly banter, and then you ask the gratitude question at 7:47 p.m. and you go around for an hour,
Yeah.
hour and 15 talking about it.
Yeah.
And then here's what's magical, Brian. And the Spanish have a word for it. It's called sombresa. That wasn't a Spanish accent, but anyways, sombresa. It means to linger at the table long after the meal is finished.
Mm.
The people didn't leave. You had people with emails and calendar invites and babysitters and the worries of the world waiting for them outside the walls of this tiny studio apartment on the Upper West Side. But they didn't leave. They just stayed. They hung out and they talked about their why, not their what or their how.
Yeah.
And it was nuts.
Yeah.
It was nuts. I mean, first of all, not to mention what they talked about, it's how they talked. The power of nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
These people were now inspired, wiser, lighter, grateful, connected, happy, joy, with a little bit of hope for tomorrow. You talk different when you walk into the world that way. And we saw that at the very first meal. It was magic. Nothing else to say. It was magic. Yeah.
All right. So let's go back then and tell me the prequel.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
that.
yeah. Of saying, yeah. Yeah. I mean, when someone says, well, I don't even have 15 friends. Okay. I don't know how to say it. I've always architected ways to know people. If I see a cause, I meet people in the subway. I meet people on a plane. I meet people online. I meet people who are introduced to me by friends from out of town. My whole time in New York City, or my whole time in lower school, high school, college, New York City, whatever, has always been about staying in touch with people. And so, prior to the dinner parties, when I moved to New York City with no job, no college degree, one suitcase, living on my buddy's couch in Brooklyn on my 24th birthday on August 31st, 2011, the first freaking thing I did when I got to the city was I went to the closest bar to watch the University of South Carolina Gamecocks football game. And it turned out to be a South Carolina bar. It was called the Mason Jar on 30th and Park. And I just had a way when it came time to, selling raffle tickets to the rest of the Gamecock alumni in New York City, I would go sell the raffle tickets even though I didn't go to the school. I just grew up in South Carolina, so I liked the team. By the time 3 or 4 months into it, Brian, I sat on the Gamecock alumni board for New York City, and I didn't even go to the school. Right? So then I found causes that I could dedicate my time, effort, and energy to, and I met people through philanthropy. Or I'd go out to a bar and I'd figure out a way to gather 40 strangers that were at a bar, and I'd gather them together and I'd find a rich dude to pay for all our shots. It's just what we did. In theater, I was always doing a play, and so I could meet someone and say, hey, you want a free ticket to the play? Come on. And that was a way of investing in the relationship. Yeah. And so I was always architecting ways to bring people together. And so by the time I invented pasta sauce, I had like 15 different friend groups of people who didn't know each other to be able to pluck from and say, I'm hosting a dinner. Do you want to come? Yeah. But I had done the hard work of staying in touch with the people. I don't just send a text. I'll just randomly call someone. And that's a moment they remember, so that when I invite, when I invent pasta sauce, they're like, oh yeah, I'll go to the kid's dinner. He called me on my birthday. Yeah. I mean, how Facebook, you can literally see like whose birthday it is.
Yeah.
Brian, I would send 40 video messages a day to wish happy birthday in my 20s when I had unlimited energy. So I just used to do all these kind of things. For sure.
So help me out. This is maybe a good rabbit hole to go down. Like, you're the outlier there, because most people, almost everyone, is not doing that. And in fact, and I don't want to say this is just men, because I'm sure women are at fault for this too, but I know men, like I was just talking with someone about this the other day. They're like challenged to even send a text to a friend of like, I don't want to send it. That's weird. Just send a text, like, so how do you get over that? Like, where's the first place to start even to even get some of that interaction?
Can I tell you a story?
Please do.
7, almost 8 years ago, there was this guy named Andy. And he used to have breakfast at a restaurant called Rosemary's. And he would have breakfast with wonderful folks. And pretty soon, eventually, he looked over and noticed that there was this guy named John who was also hosting breakfast meetings at Rosemary's. Mm-hmm. And they decided to have breakfast together. And, after a number of times of having breakfast together, the owner of Rosemary's, Carlos, looked over and said, "Hey, I'll join him." And so the three of them started having breakfast. Eventually, they said, "Let's host a dinner party." And they looked at each other and said, "All right, each of you invite 3 people." So John invited 3 people. Carlos invited people. Andy invited 3 people. Now you got a 12-person dinner. And they made the rules of the dinner Jeffersonian-style dinner rules, which meant you couldn't talk to your neighbor. You could only talk into the table. Only one group conversation at a time. So it was one of those kind of things. And they kept on doing the dinners, inviting new people. Old people would come in, new people. Anyways, 7, 8 years running now. It's been monthly dinners for almost 8 years. It's been quarterly happy hours. It's now turned into Friday morning coffees and the occasional Saturday volunteer days. And it's called the League of Gentlemen. We've even got our own emoji. It's a log, like the log emoji, League of Gentlemen, log. Yeah. The only price of admission is your own participation. You don't get to know who's in the group. The only way you know that is by showing up. There's no costs associated with joining unless we're all rallying together to raise money for a nonprofit or we're going on a group trip together. We've got a WhatsApp thread of about 100 guys with 8 or 9 sub chats. There's an AI chat, a sports bar chat, a giving back, the philanthropy chat that John Vadalero kind of spearheads, the Friday morning coffee chat, all these kind of different things, the I need help chat, whatever. So there's been hundreds of guys that have come through this, but it's really the power of like 30 or 40 guys that like keep it going. Maybe like 20 or 30 guys that like keep it going. And what I've realized is that in a world that optimizes us meeting new people, right? You can click connect on LinkedIn. You can click like on Facebook. You can share someone's post. You can meet new people at a networking event. Like that's gotten us so far. But it's these like safe spaces that are built on intimacy, which I kind of define as duration, consistency, and vulnerability over time. Where like, yeah, it may be surface level at the start, but like if you keep showing up, they're going to keep like the armor is going to keep coming off. I mean, some of the most beautiful things that happen is like last night we had our quarterly happy hour. I actually canceled hosting a dinner in my home to meet net new people in order to say yes to attending our quarterly happy hour and seeing the same old guys. And some of the most beautiful things happen when you have a very like brief conversation with someone at an event, and then you take that conversation offline and you like are there for each other. Like this morning, I just texted a friend, "You've got this, pal. Today's going to be a great day." Just based on what we talked about last night.
Yeah.
That's it. It is hard, but like, I really think the world wants it. And if you don't wait to attend other people's spaces, you create the space to invite them, the people will show up. They will.
And I mean, really, what you're saying in a nutshell is it's intentionality. Like you
Uh-huh.
have to be intentional about it.
Uh-huh.
You can't
But
just be
not
passive.
exclusive,
Yeah,
inclusive,
yeah,
but intentional. The price is your energy, your sweat equity of participation.
yeah,
Like we in the League of Gentlemen, like we not reward, but like it's the people who like show up early, stay late to clean up, want to go volunteer together, initiate something, organize a Super Bowl 50 squares or organize
yeah,
a bracket for Masters or March
yeah,
Madness. Like the price of your participation is that, and it doesn't have to cost anything.
yeah.
I think human connection is a very timely topic that the world is finally waking up to. I think, to actually, I won't go there. I've just hogged the floor. I'll give it back to you.
No, you didn't hog that. You're the guest. You're here. I want to hear all this. Well, you make a good point though, just to kind of round that edge a little bit, like because I don't know how old you are. I'll be 43 next week, and like I think about my life. Live basically half in the non-digital age, right? I mean, I had computers when I was in high school, but like for the most part, it was like non-existent, and then half my life with obviously all the tech we've had in the last, let's say, 20 years. And what I have noticed was there was this push of like, oh, with MySpace and early Facebook, and it was like, oh, we can connect. And obviously then Instagram was launched and Twitter and all that. It's like, oh, we can connect more, and oh, you're gonna have this global connection. And then what I think you've realized and you write about a lot is like, yes, that seemed good, but I think what a lot of people are realizing now is like, those aren't real. Now, some of them, by the way, you and I have never met in person, so some of it's relevant and some of it's helpful. But I think what you're getting at is that's just the strike of the match. To keep the flame going, you have to be intentional about. Because I have a ton of people I've never met in person, like I've met through this podcast or other ways, where we've caught up on coffee chats, like virtually and stuff, and they become good friends, and that's been phenomenal. But we've been intentional about that. So just to kind of, I think, to underscore what you've been saying, it's like we're now in this part where I think a lot of people realize like the IRL, like the intentional connection, is really where we need to be focusing.
So yes, and I don't want to poo-poo on virtual connection, like what we're doing here today. Like I think that we've both had breakthroughs in our conversation. That's a moment worth remembering.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's virtual.
Right.
So as my friend Smiley Poswalski, one of the world's great experts on, the power of human connection, belonging, male friendship, all these wonderful things. He says hybrid is not where we work, it's how we connect. And I truly believe that you can create connection virtually. I've proven it out. I mean, like in 2020, we produced 145 events for companies virtually. We produced 98 events in 2021 virtually. At every single one of those events, the majority of the people cried. It's possible. So I don't want to poo-poo virtual. I just want to say that virtual or in person, there's a difference between a convenient, almost empty shelled version of attempted performative connection and like an earned connection. Here's the landscape. We live in a world that worships frictionless design. Now, human connection has been what companies have tried to make frictionless for years. Click like on Facebook, click connect on LinkedIn, click, a button to send a gift card. Like that's a frictionless experience.
Right.
Under the guise of human connection. Okay. Well, I think it's left us fucked. Sorry, in the soul, literally.
Yeah.
It's made human connection efficient and optimized and convenient, and it's kind of not working. Same goes for in-person events, by the way. You go to an event and you ask someone, what do you do? You go to an event, you immediately get someone to sign up for your QR code at your trade booth and give them your business card. You give someone a piece of swag with your brand on it. All of that is bullshit. There's nothing more disgusting than someone avoiding connecting by asking for my contact information. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's just say it's being done wrong in both spheres, virtual and in person.
Yeah.
So if the world worships frictionless design and it's fucked us in the soul and made us all replaceable, efficient, and optimized, and we never have sex with our wives anymore, what if we did the opposite? What if we created a little bit of moments of designed friction? See the difference? Frictionless design, designed friction.
Yep.
What if most meaningful moments of human connection in our daily lives actually required a little bit of designed friction and inconvenience that made it actually worth it? Folks, this is a 180 on what we're normally, typically, conveniently going to do. I'm here to literally punch the whole human connection business in the face and say, you fucked us. Now let's just literally do the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm up for that fight. I've earned the right to fight that fight. I've sat at the feet of tens of thousands of people over the last 10 years, and it hasn't been easy. It was a lonely uphill climb. You try to convince Google, Microsoft, IBM, Dell, JP Morgan, Citi, the United States government that human connection in the workplace is important. That's a lonely uphill climb. But I've sat at the feet. I've humbled myself. I've listened and learned to the authentic experience of those that I'm trying to serve. And I've earned the right to say, it's fucked us.
Yeah.
It's made us more replaceable than ever before, more efficient and optimized, and it's driven us farther apart. We're slaves to the algorithm. So let's do the opposite.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I mean, that's the thing. Because anyone that has like logically thinks about things is we have more abundance. We have more wealth or money creation. When we think, obviously, some parts of the world are obviously messed up, but even those areas that used to be way poverty stricken, they're better, right? We have access to so much stuff, and yet we're a lot more unhealthy, both physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, like all the, you check all those boxes. So it's like, what's the issue? And the issue is, like, I remember when I was a kid, you probably do too, is you're outside, you're running around with friends. You're not sitting in front of a TV screen, right? You're doing things with family that are around you, if you're fortunate with that. Like, you're doing these things that seem so natural, and we've kind of constructed this world with these walls up around us, thinking that's the right way, but it's really not. It's absolutely not.
I can point to a few things. I can point to a $50 billion a year wellness industry based on an app, based on things we should do that don't actually involve doing it with others, right? There's a reason why our nation is so fat, because physical health, or the solution of going to a gym, is still an isolated experience, which is a demotivating experience. I mean, how demotivating is it to wake up and be like, I'm going to go do this thing alone?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I think so I'm not an expert on this, and I'm still figuring out the right way to talk about this, but it's this thing called like the DSM. It's like a diagnostics of like, there used to be like 100 ways that you could say that you were sick. Like, I have anxiety, or like, I'm tired, or like, I'm whatever. Now there's like 400 ways of calling yourself sick. And so I don't believe the world has made sicker people. I just feel like the world has given people more words to call themselves sick, which has built an entire roster of a victim mindset. My friend Steven Kotler, who wrote The Rise of Superman and The Art of Impossible, one of the world's leading experts on flow neuroscience and peak performance, he literally said to me over dinner one night, he said, we have a cult of trauma in this country. And so I feel like we call ourselves more names than ever before in human history as an excuse to hold us back, to keep us in a little box.
Yeah.
And it robs us of getting out of the box and into the world to connect meaningfully with people that might be different than us. They might not have our little diagnosis. And so we fear talking to them. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You're right on with that. It is interesting of like that victim mentality. Gosh, it's even, we even see it with, I mean, the political, like it boggles my mind that people, just because they have a different color on their badge of the political party, they won't talk to someone of the other party.
I've written Rolling Stone articles about this. The Republican, 78% of one side thinks the other is immoral. 80% of the other side thinks the other party is immoral. It's a convenient thing for people to do, to look at the other side and say, they're wrong, I'm right. The convenient thing, I'm going to go from convenient to inconvenient, convenient to earned, right? The convenient thing, the unearned, convenient, fucked in the head thing to do is to look at another person you disagree with and say, I'm going to spend so much time, effort, and energy trying to correct or fix their way of thinking, which is wrong. In the grand history of conflict across tens of thousands of years, that's never worked.
Right.
But it's convenient, it's easy, and so we build systems that do that. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay. Yeah. So the opposite, the inconvenient, the filled with friction, the earned way of looking at that is to say, oh, no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking at them as an object and not as a person. Maybe my heart is at war and not at peace. Let me start there.
Yeah.
And then let me go out and build the relationship with the person I hate, invite them to dinner or something. Then let me actually shut the fuck up to listen and learn. Let me not have my quote unquote novel idea I got from social media that morning actually heard. Let me sit and listen and learn and ask good, open-ended, calibrated questions that start with what or how instead of triggering questions like why. And then only after that, if I've thoroughly connected with the person, can I actually maybe earn the right to have the space to teach and communicate what I truly believe in through my lived experience, strength, and hope. Not what I read elsewhere, just like my own freaking what I believe in because this thing happened to me.
Yeah.
And only after you do all of that can you maintain a slight little glimmer of hope that it will correct or fix what they believe in. But that's a long path, inconvenient, filled with friction along the way, tons of points of possible failures. But that's the only way to do it. Because every other way is not working.
I think the other, I almost like to, if I could just add on to that, there's also the path of, I don't need to change someone else. I'm comfortable in my beliefs and what I believe.
Yeah.
And I respect. It's that funny. I don't know if you ever watch Family Guy, but one of the funny things, like when Peter's like, I disagree with what you're saying, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. And like, I always love that line because I'm like, it's so true. It's like, I don't agree with you maybe, but I respect the hell out of you for
Mm.
believing it and for following it. That's fine. You know?
On April 26, 2009, I was 11 and a half months sober after 3 stints in rehab and 2 stints in jail, getting kicked out of college. And, I was lost on my path. And April 26, 2009, I had a gal come into South Carolina from California. I met her at a traffic light at my 3rd rehab, and she bought me a tattoo in my childhood hometown. I was clamoring onto my last leg of sobriety by that moment. I was 11 and a half months sober. And so I got the one thing that I had been forced to repeat every day for the last 11 and a half months, which was in the rooms of AA, which was the Serenity Prayer. I got it tattooed on my arm. And I got it for free because I let the tattoo artist give a tattoo to that gal's vagina of a diamond. But that's a whole nother story. The Serenity Prayer is exactly what we're talking about. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You want to gain power in this world? You want to gain influence without authority in this world? Sometimes the first step is just to surrender and accept that there are things in this world that you will never be able to change. Yeah. And that's all right. Maybe it's you accepting your limitations on this call today. You've got a health issue. You've got a family member that you're caregiving for. There are things you cannot do anymore because you're old. The first step of reclaiming your life is acceptance, is surrender, is of acknowledging I can only do what I can do. And there are some things I cannot control. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. So let's do this then. Maybe this is a good kind of like rounding out our conversation. I wish we could do like a 3-hour conversation. I feel you and I are just getting warmed up here, but maybe we'll have to do a part 2 at some point. Let's design. So let's do that. Being the Just Get Started podcast, everyone listening in, right? They're all different walks of life, but we can probably all agree we could design some friction to make better experiences. What are the first, take 1 step, 2, 3 steps, something like that, where people can do today that they can start designing that friction?
I'll give you three pillars. Okay. Presence, intimacy, coherence. The first pillar is on presence. Folks, you're probably watching 9 other things while listening to this podcast. Stop. Pick one thing in your life and just do it for 10 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know about you, but sometimes the people around me, right, might have their phone open, their iPad watching Bravo, and they're on their laptop doing work. Yeah. No. Put 2 of the screens down and just do one thing. Or put all 3 of the screens down and just do one thing. So you can do that. Next time you walk outside, don't bring your phone. Go for a walk, and instead of looking into your phone, look around at nature. Yeah. Take in your surroundings. Be present. Next time you host a gathering, don't tell people that they can come whenever they want. Make them come at a specific time, 6:30 p.m. sharp, with the promise that they'll be able to leave and go back to their miserable lives at 9:32 p.m. That finitude, creating boundaries around the experience, actually drives radical presence. Go meditate. Go sit on your couch. Put everything away and just sit. The Gen Z youth call it raw dogging. Just sit. Do nothing. Try it. That's presence. The deeper version of that is like acceptance. The deeper version of that is like surrender. Like go and kneel at the feet of something greater than you. It could be God. It could be a group of people. It could be a pro dom. It could be your own spouse. Try it and just kneel there for 20 minutes. Your world will change. Pillar 2, intimacy. This is like the friction of others. The first one was friction of self. Second one is friction of others. Go out and meet someone new. That requires friction. That's a little scary. Maybe ask them not what they do, but ask them who they've never thought to thank. Try it. What you can also do is go out and re-engage with existing people you already know. There's actually friction in that, because the deeper you go with people who know you, the scarier that relationship becomes. There's now like liability that they know too much. And we all have a defense against intimacy. That's like, mommy issues 101 kind of thing. But like, go and like make yourself available for people you already know. Right? So that step 1 is building weak ties. That step 2 is building strong ties. The third and final thing you can do in intimacy is to host a repeatable event. We always say one event can change a night. Repeatable events can change a life. Try that. And it could be boring and un-Instagrammable and like free. And it could cost $10. But invite the people. They need the space. Just creating the space is enough. And then the third and final thing is the pillar of coherence, which is essentially the friction of how we look at the world. See, the truth is all of us have been raised in the lie of 2 truths. We either have hope or doom. We have been raised in the computer generation of the binary, 1s and 0. It's either on or it's off. Jim Collins, the great American author, calls this the tyranny of the or. Well, folks, I invite you to step out of the tyranny of the or and into the genius of the and. Just by looking at your life and realizing it's a lot messier than 1s or 0s. There is no 2 potential futures. There are infinite amounts of potential futures. And you need to be able to hold that in a coherent way. And so all you need to do is look at your life and say, and, not or. Try it. I can promise you it will bring a paradoxical type of freedom by being able to hold those 2 opposing truths, what's called dialectic. Hold them, don't oppose them. You do that. Oh, it's going to be a great unlock. And I mean, one of my most recent Rolling Stone articles is called The And Mindset, Why the Future of Leadership Requires And Not Or. And I think I even wrote about presence and intimacy in another Rolling Stone article called Earn Connection, Why the Future of Leadership is Slower, Deeper, and More Human or Wiser or something like that. So presence, friction of self; intimacy, friction of others; coherence, friction of and.
Boom. Walk off. Mic drop.
Woo.
Love it, Chris. That's awesome, man. That's a good way to end this conversation, and certainly appreciate you being on. I know LinkedIn's where you're spending a lot of time. You got your website. You got the 747 website too, right?
Yeah, 747club.org. But it's what it, like, if you're watching this, folks, here's my invitation. Reach out, email or LinkedIn, your choice. Hop on a flight, land in LaGuardia, because it's only 18 minutes away from here. Come to a dinner. Like, you're invited. I'm not kidding. This is not an exclusive experience. We host dinner parties in our home all the time, and people fly in from Europe, South America, all over the country. I'm not kidding. If you want to come to a dinner, book the flight. I dare you. You won't do it. You don't have it in you, but I dare you. Like, honestly, if you're motivated by today, do something about it, which means showing up. That's what I want y'all to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you won't do it. You won't do it because you're scared. I see you. I see you. You're making the excuse of why you can't book that ultra cheap Spirit airline ticket to come to my home and bring me a bottle of wine and let me cook you dinner. I see the excuses.
You know what the cool thing is, though? There will be people that do that, whether from this or other things. And what's interesting is like having that experience of where it's gotten that friction. Because I know what you're talking about. Like I actually I hosted a cocktail party 2 years ago, and I need to do another one now. This is inspiring me. I've been thinking about it. But I had 18 people in my house. I was the only one. Now, some people knew each other otherwise, but like they didn't really know each other. But similar, like you said, we had a cap time. Like it was phenomenal, but it was like one of those things I had to be way outside my comfort zone. But once I did it, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. So that's the invitation, is like, yes, it might be scary, but once you do it, it's going to be like, why haven't I ever done this before?
My friend Paz came up with a ratio 49-51. We, the host, only do 49% of the work. We meet someone, we invite them. We go buy the food. We open up the home. We open up the door. It requires the guest to do 51% of the work to show up. They got to overcome their own bias. They got to overcome their own fear, guilt, shame, regret, whatever it is, anger. They got to do that work before even showing up. And that's the hard part. You know, I think, like you said earlier, the world is actually a really good place. There's actually a lot more people that are doing good work. I don't think we need more people initiating. I think we need more people showing up to what's existingly out there.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Yeah.
You know, I bet if you're watching this, if you look in your local community, there's already someone that's doing something that you've actually probably accidentally deemed weird or like, I would never go. But the truth is, they're doing it. They just need you to show up. And maybe that's step one.
Yeah.
Right? Step one of a better life tomorrow is not necessarily initiating. It's just being the first to raise the hand to say, I'll come. Try it. The first follower is the true leader.
Chris, I love that. That's a good way to end this. Certainly appreciate being on, man. Thanks for all the wisdom.